Okay, so introduction to website development. Today we'll start with the definition of websites. So how do we define website? A website is simply the collection of two or more pages that are connected within the website URL. A website is an online database or online platform where information can be advertised either by individuals or by corporation. Now, a website is just like the way we have a physical signboard system of advertising contents. So a website is an online system for advertising contents. So why it is called website? It is because people can access it all over the world, irrespective of their location, once they have access to the internet. Okay, so but before you go into web development, there are certain things you need to know. You need to know that web development is an arm of programming. And what is programming? The simple definition of code, which leads to what we know today as the art of programming, is a set of functions given to a computer to operate. Set of functions given to the computer system to be able to perform certain functionality. So we refer to that as code. Now, who are the programmers? The programmers are people who write codes, who write these instructions for the computer to carry out different tasks. So at the end of the day, as a web developer, you are a programmer, but the difference between you and an app developer is that an app developer uses programs like Java, C++, Python to develop real apps, which some of them can be web-based apps, but for us, the web developer, most of our programming is based on programming on a website that is building apps that once they are hosted can perform one or two things for the visitors or the users. Okay, now the next topic is as a web developer, we need to know that website has two different ends. When we say website ends, we are talking about two different environments or interface of a website, which ranges from the front end to the back end. Now, what is the simple meaning of the front end of a website? The front end of a website is simply the user end. So we developer, we build this end for the users to be able to access the contents. And because of that, I will use this example. This front end, just like your city room in your building. You take all the necessary time and effort to make sure that your living room, your city room is well organized, because you are expecting visitors to come in. You are trying to entice them, you are trying to probably entertain them so that they will have good experience for them to keep coming. So when we are developing the front end, we need to work with that same concept. You have to bear in mind that you are building this end for the users, and there's every possibility of a user visiting your site, the front end, and then if whatever you have there is not encouraging, the person may not want to visit you back. And if that happens, the person may not be aware of the latest updates that will probably market your products. So that is why we need to be conscious of that. We need to see the front end as our city room, so that we can take all the necessary steps to make sure that we build it to standard. Now let's look at the languages. For you to be able to put this front end together, you need some languages, you need some programming languages to be able to achieve this. And the programming languages for the front end development, they are the HTML, which is the markup language for building content. And then we have the CSS, which is the styling language. So the work of CSS is just to help us to modify for readability and to make your content look more presentable. That is the primary function of the CSS. Those elements, those contents that you have added with the HTML. So the CSS comes in to modify them, to style them, to decorate them. And I want you to see from this angle. For example, the body structure. In other words, we can say that the HTML defines the structure of a website, the skeleton, the content. That is the work of HTML. The CSS comes in order to add flesh to the bones, to form the beautiful body that you and I have. So that is how it works. So it means that if you build a website just with HTML, the challenge you are going to have is that the elements will not be properly presented to the users. They are not going to be styled. They will just be scattered all over the pages without any pattern. So that is why we need CSS as a program that we use in developing the front end. Now we also need JavaScript. Of course, JavaScript is the web developing language, the language of the web. A website without a JavaScript is not going to be interactive. When a website is not interactive, it means that the contents are not sorry, the content are not dynamic. So we need JavaScript to be able to add action, to be able to add some interactivity to our web page. So that is work of JavaScript. So I've explained the three main languages that are used for developing the front end of the website, and I've also pointed out their roles. Just to recap, the HTML is for adding the content. The content in this case could mean the images, the write-up, the video, the audio, the graphics work that you want to publish in your website. They are all content. How do you publish them in your web pages, on your website? That is what HTML does. And the CSS is for modifying, for styling, for making them readable, presentable. And then of course JavaScript is to add interactivity, that's action, to some of those elements. All right, now that we have established the front end languages and the meaning of the front end, now let's look at some facts about HTML. So there are certain facts you need to know about HTML outside the ones I've explained so far. So I'm going to talk about the facts, some basic facts you need to know about HTML. Number one, you need to know that HTML, the HTML stand for Hypertext Markup Language. Hypertext Markup Language. That is the full meaning of HTML. That is why I told you that the HTML is a markup language. It's a markup language. It's a language that is used to define the skeleton, the structure, to add the content in a website. So as a result of that, we can say that the HTML stands for the Hypertext Markup Language. That is one fact about it. The second fact about HTML is a markup language is a set of markup tags, T-A-G-S, tags. There is no way you work with HTML without taking into consideration the tags, because the tags are actually the building blocks that you need to be able to add this content that I just spoke about. So what it means is that for you to be able to add an image to your web page, you need an HTML tag. There is a tag designed for that purpose, just to allow you to add images to your web page. Then, for example, I want to add a kind of heading. Let's say the name of my organization, DigiTechZ. I want to publish it on my page. There are tags that are designated for that particular function of adding heading, which is the heading tag. The heading tag regions from which are denoted with H1, to H6. That is, we have H1 to H6 as our tags for adding headings wherever the case might arise. But it not depend on the developer, because this H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6, by default they are actually programmed to display your content with different sizes. For example, the H1 write-up is expected to be bigger or larger than the H2, and so on till you get to H6. What means that the H6 is the least among them. However, this rule is not followed once you involve CSS. What I'm saying is that I can add my heading with H6, which is the smallest, but I can use CSS to manipulate it to increase it such that it will now be bigger than the original size of H1. So those default sizes that have been programmed, they are limited to when you are working with just HTML without involving CSS. So get it right. So we are still on the facts about HTML. So basic things we need to know about HTML. Remember, I've mentioned HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. HTML markup language are a set of markup tags. So the question now is that what are tags? There is no way as a web developer you'll be able to add content or work with HTML without understanding what tags are. Tags, in a simple definition, we can say tags are the keywords that are surrounded with the angle brackets. The keywords that are surrounded with the angle bracket. What does that mean? I'm talking about this. This is angle bracket. This side, as we all know, this is the less than, and this is the greater than sign. So what it means is that any write-up inside these two tags, both the left and the right tag, they are called HTML tags. And this keyword, they are actually used to generate content in our web pages, such that the browser will store the tags name or the tags to itself, just to determine how these contents are published to the user. So the users are only privileged to see the content. They cannot see the tags themselves. But you and I know that as a developer, the tags exist. There is no content you see in a web page that was not published with HTML tag. So we need to get that right. So that is the simple definition of HTML tag. So let me also define it here as part of the facts you need to know about HTML. HTML documents are described by HTML tags. What is the meaning of that? HTML document is simply the collection of HTML tags and their content. HTML tag and their content. Now, for example, now this is what we are talking about. So let me go to my editor. For example, now I create a new file. Let me quickly make a new file just to illustrate what we are talking about. So let's say tags dot html, and then I type HTML. Then I choose HTML5, which is the latest HTML. Now you can see what I'm talking about. All this, they are collection of tags that forms HTML document. So I'm going to take time to explain what these different default tags are meant for. These are tags that have been programmed in the editor. These are tags that have been programmed in the editor. So what I did, instead of me writing them manually by myself, I have to just activate them. So how do you know tag? Look at the opening angle bracket and the closing here. So the whole of this doc type HTML is a tag because it's surrounded with the angle bracket. And the role of this tag is to declare the type of document you are writing, which is defined to be HTML. The one that says HTML language defines the language, the encoding language you are using to be what? English. And then we have the head, which talks about, which provide information about the HTML document. Then we have the title as one of the direct child of head tag. This is actually used to of your title of your document. So we'll get to know this as soon as I'm done with this explanation. So I've not really started. I just want us to have an idea to know what tag is. So all these write-up that are surrounded with angle bracket, the body, the head, the HTML, the doc type, they are tags. Alright, so that is all about HTML tags. So these are the simple facts you need to know about HTML. Don't forget, it's a content builder. We use it to develop what the user sees on the web page. Now let's quickly talk about let's quickly talk about editors. A programmer, or in programming, there are certain apps that are specially created for us to write our codes. Whichever language you are speaking, being it Python, being it Java, being it HTML, being it CSS, you need an app as an editor to be able to speak it. In other words, to write the code of that language. And these apps, they are called editors. There is no programmer that does not use one of them, at least. Now this editor ranges from the professional editor to basic editor to professional editor. What is the simple difference between the basic editor and the professional editor? The basic editors are the ones that does not come with inbuilt keyword in their library. The program library is just like a storage within the program where the writer have already composed some keyword that you probably use. So all you need to do is just to exploit them to do whatever he wants to do with them. So one of the reasons why I will not advise any developer or programmer to use the basic is that they don't come with this keyword in their library. So you really want to write all your code manually, which takes time. So as a result of that, we use the advanced editor. The advanced editor today that we use, the best out of them all is Visual Studio Code. So in other words, for you to start, you need to install Visual Studio Code as one of the editors. That is, if that is your choice. We have Sublime Text, that is another editor. We have Atom. We have a lot of them, depending on the one you want to use. But I am telling you that from statistics, 90% of developer, being it web developer, being it application developer, we use Visual Studio Code. So to start with, now that you have an idea that for you to start writing any programming code, you need an editor that aids your code writing. So I'm going to start from teaching us how to install. How do I get the Visual Studio Code? The Visual Studio Code is an open source. What does that mean? It's not a program that costs you money. You can freely download it on the internet. That's what makes it open source. So to start with, you open a browser. So you can write down the steps now how we are going to download and install. Though I have already installed it, but just for us to understand the process. So to start with, I will activate my browser, and then from my browser, then for download Visual Studio Code. When you are downloading, you need to take into consideration your system architecture. Whether your system is 64-bit or 32-bit, you need to factor that so that you don't download the wrong one into your system. Of course, if you are using 64-bit system, you can add 32 bits, but you cannot add 64-bit to 64-bit system. So I'll simply come here, I'll say download SC, which is Visual Studio Code. You can decide to type it in full. If you don't want to abbreviate it, you can say Visual. So to bring it out, then you click. Now to bring you here, so this is the website. Then you come to this. Then from here, then we have different versions of it. We have the ones that are compatible with Windows computer, the ones that are compatible with other formats like NPR. We have Mac, iOS, and so on. So this is where if you are downloading on Windows 10 or Windows 11, then like I said, if your system is for Windows 10, Windows 11, you can see that they have been designed to work with what 64 bits. So if this is the one I want to download, then I'll click on it. Then it will download, and while it's downloading, it's probably, you can see it downloading here. These are some of the snippets. These are some of the kind of highlight, like documentation, where you can read more about it. So once the download or the downloading process is completed, and then you go to your download folder. You go to your download folder. So from your download folder, you should be able to see the downloaded file. So the next step will now be for us to install it. Like I said, I've already installed mine, so I will just start the entire process, and thereafter I will terminate it. So I'm going to my download to see what I downloaded. So this is the Visual Studio Code that you downloaded. So all you need to do is just to double click on it for installation, and then to prompt you a series of instructions to observe. Then you click on run, and then click on run. So it's going. So it will prompt you an interface where you can keep clicking on next. Now you can see setup have detected that what Visual Studio Code is running. So what do you do in this case? What do you do in this case? Please choose all instance. Please close all instance. So what it's saying is that because we have it open, so let's quickly close it, processing. I just want us to see how the installation process goes to an extent before I terminate it. So the same thing is probably because I've installed it. But once you have downloaded it, you click here. All you'll be clicking is next. It will bring some option. You check them, and then click on next. So from that, okay. So no wonder I still have it. Okay, no, this is just the browser. Okay, let me try it again and see if it will go before I quit. Okay, so you can see it. So this is how it's going to open. Then you select accept, and then you click on next. Then you make sure that all these are checked. Then you can check this so that it will create an icon on the user interface, the desktop, so that you'll be able to probably access it through the shortcut. Then you click on next, then install. So you can see setup is preparing to install. So I want you to override the one I have there. I just want us to understand the process, because that is where to start from. Before you start doing anything, you need to get this editor in your system. So the installation is going. Alright, so once you have completed this, and and then it will open, and then it will open by default. So it's opening, and this is it. So, but this is not how it's going to open if you have not started running any project. These are the projects that, so I need to close them so that you understand how it will open by default when you have not started creating any website or project. So this is how it will open. So from here you can study. This is just like your startup page where you can see all the recent files that you have loaded into the editor. Now these are the alright, so now to start with, once you have loaded it, then you minimize. You start by creating a project folder. Let's assume that you want to develop website for a client. Where do I start from? How do I start writing HTML code? How do I start writing what I am saying is that you need to start by having a folder called root folder. This root folder is a single folder that is designed to contain all your design, everything you probably use for developing the website. You are to write them in that folder so that when you are through developing, you can take that single folder and publish it on the internet. Now to start with, I'll create a new folder. I'll go to new, and then I'll select folder. Then I'll just name that folder, let's say project 222. After I've created the folder, there are other website related folder that you need to create. What do I mean? There are other folders that are connected to building this website that have one or two functions while you are building this website. For example, you are going to publish images in your website, so you need a folder to package those images in one place. So what I'm going to do, I'll go into the root folder that I've created by opening it. Then I will right click there and then make another folder. Then I will name it img, or you can as well use image as the name. Then after that, there are other associated folders that I'm going to need. For example, I need a folder that will compile, that will separate my CSS code from my HTML code. Then what we call debugging. When there are issues, you have written a code to achieve a particular function, but it's not really responding. When you start finding out what could be the cause, why it's not working, which is called debugging in programming, then if you have mixed up the code, the HTML and the CSS, then it makes it difficult for you to be able to debug easily. That is why it is advised you separate this code, this key code. So that is why I'm creating another folder, and that folder I'm going to name it CSS. So I'll create another folder, and then though for now we are not going to venture into JavaScript, but just to follow the standard, I'll create another folder. I'll name it this. So after I have created all this folder, then I'll go back to my editor and call that folder into the editor as my project. And how do I do that? You go to File, you select Open Folder, not Open File. So once you click on Open Folder, and then you go to where you created the folder. Remember that I created the folder on desktop. So I'll select desktop, and then I'll search for the folder project 222. So I'll just click on it, not open it, don't open it, just select it, and then click on what? Select folder. Then automatically it will open in my Visual Studio Code. So you can see it. So this is absolutely new project that you have not started developing. You just want to start. So this is how it will display. Now I want you to understand this application. The whole of this section is your project explorer. So just like a panel where you can access your project features like the root folder name, the other subfolder. You can see this icon, this arrow showing that right now we are in project 222, and inside project 222 we have CSS as a sub element, we have img as another sub element, we have JS as another sub element. So if I click here now, you will see the relationship. You can see that this is the directory. That is, we have selected the directory of project 222. So you need to be careful, you need to be mindful of how this icon, these arrows are displaying. Right now this one is facing down. If I click on it to face up, meaning that you have collapsed all the items. So if you want to expand it to see what you have under, you click on it. So you need to know how to manage your application, your editor. So now that I've created this, how do I start with? To start with, I will create my first HTML file. So how do I do that? And that first HTML file should not be inside any of these three folders. It should always be inside the directory, which is the root folder that you called in here. So for you to be sure that you are in the directory, so that you don't mistakenly create it inside image. For example, now the way I'm selecting this now, if I come here now, I am creating this file inside image tab. So I'll make sure that I am in the root folder. You click on this space so that you see the frame that tells you, okay, I'm not in any of this, I am directly inside the project folder. So once you have ensured that, you come to this icon, new file, not new folder. So those folder that I created there, the image, the JS, I could have just created the project folder and then come here and click here to make my CSS folder, come here and click here to make my image folder, and so on. But since we have already created the folder, we'll just go straight to file. And then when you are creating your file, what we call file extension. That is what comes after the period. The period in this case means dots. In programming, it is called period. And that extension is what defines the language you are using to develop that website. So for example, the very first page of every web page, every website is called index. Index means the compressed version of all your pages, meaning that all other pages emanated from this particular page. And that is the landing page. What is the meaning of that word landing page in web development? Landing page, just like we borrow the word for flight. If you are taking flight now from here to London, there must be a landing destination where that airplane is going to land first before you continue your journey. So when the user type www and they probably take off from the browser, where is it going to land them into? The very first page is going to take them to is what we call the index page. So I will write it. Then, like I said, you must specify your extension. The extension is what comes after the period, dot, then which defines the language you are using. So I'm using what? HTML. So I'll type HTML. So as you can see that the tag has been activated. The angle bracket I talked about, which means it's a language for creating tags, for creating documents. So once you have typed the name, you click outside, just click anywhere outside, it will automatically create the file for you. So the next thing, what it means is that this particular editor, right now, this particular file on this editor is speaking HTML. You have just activated it to speak HTML. That is what it means. So if you have activated it to speak HTML, it means that it's going to respond to tags creation. And instead of me creating the tags manually, like I told you before, I can simply activate the HTML simple tag structure that I can now begin to expand due to the content I am building or adding to my website. So how do I activate those default HTML file. I will simply type HTML. The moment you type that, to bring out these three items. There are different versions of HTML. We have HTML 1.0, we have HTML 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, or today we are working with what? HTML 5.0, which is the latest. So you choose. So, and that automatically activates the whole of this file for us. Now, this UTF means Unicode Transform Formatting 8. This is the encoding language you are using to develop your site. We have just two types of it. We have UTF-16, UTF-8. UTF-16 is for application developers, while UTF-8 is for web developer. So these are like the character sets that we use in building website. So now, remember that I've explained this simple tag before. This is what declares the type of document you are creating to be HTML. This is where you open the HTML tag. In other words, this HTML tag we are seeing is just like the general container that spans from here down to this. In other words, is enveloping all your content. And remember, I told you before that HTML tags are keywords surrounded by angle brackets. And like I said before, any write-up inside the angle bracket, any write-up inside the angle bracket, any write-up inside the angle bracket. So what I press to increase the screen now is Control Plus. Now, any item or write-up inside this angle bracket is a tag, like I told you. So once I launch this on the website, on the browser, it's going to show the user only this document. It will not show them what I have inside the bracket, title, because the title is a tag, this one is a tag. So we have two types of tag actually. We have complete tag and complete tag. Complete tag is a tag that have opening section and the closing section. The opening section of a tag is that part that does not have the slash. So what it means is that this is the opening section of this tag, and then this is where it closes. The difference between the closing and the opening tag is just the presence and the absence of this forward slash. So where you have the forward slash indicates that is the end of that container. In other words, the head tag is just like a container now that is holding three elements, and everything you have inside the head tag, like I said, they are to give information about the document, the HTML document. So the first thing I'm going to do is to change the HTML document title. If I open this on the browser right now, it's going to display to the user document. But I wouldn't want that. I want the user to be able to see, relevant or meaningful word like "welcome to my site," just for them to be encouraged instead of just showing documents, which does not really give them an idea of the information they are accessing. So I'm going to edit that, but before that, let me quickly tell us about a server. A server is just like an app that is designed to service a particular operation. In this case, we need a server that will help us to run this site, to be updating it on the browser. So because when you are developing locally before you upload to the remote for the user to access, you need to be testing your site. You need to be checking what you are doing, whether you are getting it right or not. And to do that, that is why we need a browser. A browser is an app, is a web app that enables us to test while we are developing, to check how the content will be displayed to the users. So I need a server so that each time I load or I test the content, whatever it is that I will have designed, I don't need to be refreshing. So the server will be updating it for me on the browser. Right now I have already installed it, but I'm going to show you how to go about it, which is what open with live server. So if I click here now, check what is going to happen. It will open the website on the browser. So you must have a browser at least in your system. I would advise you have more than one browser, because there are times that browser might make certain features not to display the way they should. So you can see it telling us that what is starting the server. Now this is it. Now look at what is showing here, documents. How will the user have a sense of where they are? Because this is just like you carry somebody from a particular motor park and then you landed the person to another village, and the person is looking for signboard to know the name of where he or she is. So you did not do that. So now let me quickly go. I'm coming back to how you can change that, but let me quickly go to how to install the server. You click on this extension icon. Make sure that you are connected to internet before doing this. So all you need to do to install that, just type live server here. Just type live server. By the time you type live alone to bring it up, this is it. So once you click like this place that is disabled now will now be installed. You will see install like this. Install. I've already installed. That's why I show what uninstall. So you click on that install. You can select it from here. It will be here, just like the way this one that I've not installed is showing. You see it here. You click on it, and then once you have completed that installation process, this place will now show disable or uninstall, meaning that right now it's active. If you click, you will stop it from running. So I'll come back to my Explorer to see my file, and then I'll just select the name of my file for me to see my content. So this is how you can go about installing the live server. Alright, now I was talking about the document title, the HTML document title. So this is your browser. This is what's supposed to show in your website body section. But unfortunately, nothing is showing there because we have not created any content. The only content we are seeing right now is documents, which I said is not professional because it does not give them an idea of where they are. So to do that, this is the tag that is responsible for it. So I'll simply come here and delete this, and then I'll type welcome. Welcome to my site, for example. You can put the name of the organization there. Let's say MTN. Now because I have already installed live server, I don't need to refresh. By the time I come here now, it will have been updated. So let me just refresh. So if you refresh, it's good we are having this challenge. You notice that it's not going. Remember that we just uninstall it now. We just reinstall it. So possibly there are some things that are activated, like automatic saving that has gone deactivated. So how do I do that? Anything you write, if you don't save, it will not update in your browser. So what do? You come to file and save. So let's say, make sure that you turn on this auto save, turn on the auto save, and then save. So let me open it again with the live server. So you can see it's already showing now. Welcome to my site. So I have been able to change the document that was showing here to a reasonable expression. So at least once the person is saying this, we know that okay, I'm in his site. So that is the simple function of this. Now we will now go into HTML tag proper, which is the last topic for today. We'll go into HTML tags proper now. I've spoken about the tag before, that they are the building blocks of the website. They are the blocks we use, just like house. When you want to build a house, you mold blocks first, and then after some time you start using this block to erect the building that forms the entire house you live in. So the same thing, now that we know that for me to build content in my web page, I need tags, and these tags, they are from HTML. So how do I create the tag? So I will start from the simple tag, and then later we'll go advanced. What are the simple tags? Now what I want to achieve is this. It is actually what you want to achieve that the determines the tag that you need. If I want to add an image, then that tells me the tag I need. If I want to add a heading, that also determines the tag I need. So right now I want heading. What heading do I want? I want to write here the name of my organization, DigiTechZ. I want to add it here. I want to display it. It's the first content I want to develop. So I need the H tag, which ranges from H1 to H6, like I've told you before. So I will just type H1 because I'm using an advanced editor, which have all the keyword embedded in it. So I'll just click, and then to bring out the opening tag and the closing tag. I've explained that before, that the ones with the slash is the closing tag. The one which has the opening tag, which define where the content starts and where it ends. Now, whatever you have in that very place where the cursor is blinking is the content. It's what the user will see. The user won't see whatever you have in the angle brackets. I've said it before. The browser only uses them to display the content to the user. So I will type my first heading. My first heading. That is what I want to display. So now, the moment I go to my browser, it's already updated because I've installed that live server. So you see, this is what the live server does. As you are creating your content, once you come back, you don't need to be refreshing before you see the new added information. It will be updating automatically. So like I said, I want to display the name of the organization, DigiTechZ. DigiTechZ. So the moment I come here, and then you see it. Now you want to say something about DigiTechZ, because you cannot just display the heading without explaining it. So that takes us to another tag for explanation, for creating content for the heading. And then you come to where this one closes. You shouldn't add another one, except we'll come to whereby we next tag inside another tag, but not in this case. So you come outside and press enter. And then the next tag I want to talk about is paragraph tag. The paragraph tag is simply denoted with P. That is to activate it, to declare it. All you need is just to type what? P. So the paragraph tag is used to create content, like description for the heading, for creating articles. Right now I want to say something about DigiTechZ. So I will just type P. I'll just type P and then press enter. And then I will say that thing I want to say. Now I can say DigiTechZ is an online solution. An online solution center for learning computer skills. For learning what? Computer what? Skills. For learning computer skills. So you can see it. I have the content here. Now, there is what we call an inbuilt text writer that is actually created to write text for developer when you are like debugging. Maybe you just want to practice a particular tag, not that you are developing real content for anybody. You just want to, instead of you writing like the way I just wrote, DigiTechZ is an online solution center for learning computer skill. If I don't have time, maybe I just want to confirm a tag, I want to know what the tag does, I can simply activate the lorem text. The lorem text is an internal text writer that has been programmed with the application. So all you need is just to activate it, and then you specify the number of words you want it to compose. So it's a text composer. So how do I implement it? I will just say lorem Remember, don't use this when you are building rich site for custom. I said this is just for debugging, just want to confirm one or two things. Now once you have typed it, you pass in, I want Lauren to create 50 words for me. 50, so I will type 50 immediately after it, no space, and then you click on it. So automatically, if you go back to your browser, it has generated what 50 words for you. Probably you just want to use it to confirm how the p tag works. So that is how you use the Lauren test. I want to believe we are getting it. Alright, so now I want to add another content before we come to the end of this aspect. This is purely HTML. We have not involved CSS. CSS will be the next session. So what we are learning right now is that how do I use HTML to build content in my website? Through tags. So far so good. We have used two tags. Tags that is created on our own, not the one that came by default, H1 and P tag, and we have already know their role. The H1 was used to add the heading, while the P tag was used to just give description about the heading. Now I want to add an image. Sorry, I did not put this into tag. You are not supposed to do that. Let's say I'm calling another P tag, then I'll call the Lauren inside. Lauren 50 words. Alright, so this is the best practice so that it will have a valid selector when we start styling. You know what is selector later. Now, we want to learn about another tag, one more tag, which is called image tag. The simple definition of image tag is for adding images to your website. For example, now I want a picture to come under this. So how do I create that content as an image? That cannot be derived or achieved with any of these tags. Image tag is special, it's created for only image. Though you can manipulate this for other things, or you can manipulate certain tags outside their original function. So the first thing I'm going to do is to make sure that I have some images inside my image folder. So for example, now let me go to the browser. You are writing, you must friend internet. Internet must be your best friend as a developer. So Google should be your second wife or your second husband that you always consult. You can't do without this. Don't be a stingy developer. Get data when you are working. Alright, so I need an image. What category of image do I want? I need let's say I need car image. So I'll just type car here and then click on car. And then go to what? Image. So you can expand your research. So let's say I want this car. So right click on it, select save image as option, and that will prompt you the computer storage where you can specify where do you want it to store the image. Remember, the image will be stored in that my image folder. So I'll go to desktop to look for the root folder, and then I'll search for project 222. So I'm looking for it. So I can pass it. Project 222. Project 222. So let me go gradually. This is it. You open it, then you open the image, and then you title the image. Let's say what? Car 1. Then you click on what? Save. So the image is automatically downloaded. So go back to your editor. If you come here now, expand this, you see the picture there to confirm that the image is already there. So now I want to add the image. I want to develop the image. I want to create the image. I want to add it to my page. So I will type img. That's the tag name. img. And you hit enter, and that will bring out this. Now we'll talk about attributes. because the first two tags that I used did not came with attributes, but this one, as you can see, have automatically what created two different attributes. So what is attributes in website development when you are working with tags? What do we refer to as attributes? Attributes are or let me say attributes provide additional information about the HTML element we are working with. This is the tag, which is same as what? HTML element. So whenever I mention HTML element, I'm referring to the tag and its content. So this is an empty tag, like I was saying. This is an empty tag. What makes it an empty tag? It does not have closes section. Look at this body, opens here and then close here. This one opens here, no closing tag. That is what makes it an empty tag. Because it is an empty tag, then automatically it does not have description. So but this tag, based on the way it has been created, once you call in the image parts here, this source, which is represented with SRC, is going to display it, whether you write it here or not. That is the specialty about this tag. So now, this attribute, there are two attributes that came with the activation of the tag, the source and the alternative text. I'm going to explain them before I use them. The source is used to define the image part. What does that mean? Where are you fetching the image from? That is the reason why we created this tag, this folder, and then added that image. That is all the images that you are going to use to develop the website. They should be inside this, so that whenever we come to this kind of scenario where we want to fetch the image from, we can easily call it from here. You can call image from another website. That means you put the website address there slash the folder where the image is in that website. In this case, our images are stored locally within our site. So I'll click here and just use a comment slash. So just by entering that slash, which means comments in programming, it automatically outputs everything you have inside this folder. Of course, this is where we are going. So I will now navigate. Click here, then I'll select the image. Now go back to the browser. You see the update. The image has been what? Added without sizing it to fill the entire page. That is the work of CSS. So HTML is just to add it the way it came by default. Then CSS will now begin to show you how to modify it. So ladies and gentlemen, I think I've done justice to 3 tags now and everything that has to do with HTML introduction. So we'll go for commercial break. When we come back, we will now look at CSS proper. What we shall be looking at is how do we style this content. Do we like the way they are presented? Are they looking nice? All this open space, whether the size of the write-up, the color, the background, the size of the image, all those things will be taken care of when we come back. Make sure you don't disconnect. So go and get water, refresh yourself, and then when we come back, we'll look at that. Thank you very much.